Now, these talks came amid tension over the recent killing of a U.S. immigration agent in northern Mexico. Kimberly Halkett has this report.
You can count on us.
It was a warm welcome for Mexican President Calderon at the White House, but behind the public smiles and handshakes, a strained relationship between the two countries remains. The reason, the escalating violence in Mexico's drug war. Calderon criticized the United States for not doing enough to help his country fight organized crime groups responsible for the violence. He blames the U.S. for turning a blind eye to weapons seeping south across its border and not doing enough to stop U.S. demand for illegal drugs.
Thousands of military officers and police have fallen in the line of duty in Mexico. To these deaths, we add the death of Jaime Zapata.
Jaime Zapata is the U.S. immigration agent killed reportedly with a gun purchased in the United States. The White House wants the alleged killer tried in the U.S. Appearing on Capitol Hill, the Homeland Security Secretary reassured lawmakers that would be the case.
Is it the administration's position that we will be seeking extradition into the United States? That's very good news.
Mexico wants assurances the U.S. would not seek the death penalty if the suspect is convicted. But the White House acknowledges it shares responsibility for the wider drug problem.
I reiterated that the United States accepts our shared responsibility for the drug violence.
The U.S. acknowledgement of its role in the cross-border drug problem is being viewed as a step forward.
The question is, are they doing enough to reduce consumption? Are they doing enough to stop the trafficking of weapons?
The U.S. is giving Mexico more than $1 billion a year to help them fight the drug cartels. Washington hopes this will help turn down the temperature in its often heated relationship with an ambivalent neighbor. Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
As pressure mounts on Silvia Berlusconi, the woman at the center of the sex scandal that could see the Italian government fall is taking on a new role. The woman known as Ruby is set to become the belle of the Vienna Opera Ball. Imran Khan has more.
She's the belle of the ball, known simply as Ruby. Her stage name, Karima El Mahroug, is now a celebrity in her own right, holding court with stars of stage and screen. But her rise to fame hasn't been without controversy. The Italian Prime Minister, Silvio Berlusconi, is alleged to have had an intimate relationship with a woman and is facing charges of paying for sex with an underage prostitute. She was then 17 years old. They're charges that she denies. For a coming-out ball, Ruby could not have picked a more opulent forum. The Vienna Opera Ball is one of the highlights of the world's social calendar. And she's the guest of a 78-year-old construction magnate, Richard Lugner, seen here raising his top hat. His past dates have attracted controversy. Hotel heiress and socialite Paris Hilton was one of them. But as dates go, Ruby looks likely to outdo them all. If the Italian Prime Minister is found guilty, it'll bring down the country's government. But given the smile on her face, Ruby seems to be much more interested in becoming famous as Ruby than in international politics. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera.
In Brazil, Rio de Janeiro's revelers are adding the finishing touches to the annual carnival. Samba divas, burly police officers and newly elected President Dilma Rousseff will be among the costumes adorning the streets this season. The party gets into full swing when the mayor of Rio hands over the key to the city to King Momo. That's the carnival's monarch. This is Al Jazeera, and these are the stories making the headlines. More fighting in Libya as government opponents in Brega say they are in control of the town despite continuing air raids. The area has been under attack from forces loyal to the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi for 2 days. And the U.S. president had his strongest words yet for Libya's leader. Barack Obama warned Muammar Gaddafi his time was up.
The violence must stop. Muammar Gaddafi has lost legitimacy to lead, and he must leave. Those who perpetrate violence against the Libyan people will be held accountable. And the aspirations of the Libyan people for freedom, democracy, and dignity must be met.
Well, Gaddafi and his allies have also been warned that they risk becoming war crime suspects. The International Criminal Court has announced a full investigation into alleged human rights violations in Libya. 6 women have been killed in Côte d'Ivoire during a rally for Alassane Ouattara. the internationally recognized winner of November's elections. Witnesses say security forces loyal to President Laurent Gbagbo gunned the women down in the northern district of Abidjan. There have been reports of violent clashes between Sunnis and Shias in Bahrain. Youths armed with sticks and batons charged at each other on the streets of Hamad. It's the first time the two sides have openly clashed since pro-reform protests started in the country 2 weeks ago. This comes as opposition groups say they are ready to talk to the government. Celebrations broke out on the streets of Tunisia's capital, Tunis, following the announcement that interim President Fouad Mabaza has called elections for July 24th. The vote will elect a group to rewrite the constitution. But that means Mabaza will remain in power beyond his March 15th deadline. Lawyers for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange have launched an appeal against his extradition to Sweden. He's wanted for questioning about alleged sexual assaults. And China says it will increase its defense budget by 12.7% this year, but reiterated its military growth is not a threat to other countries. The announcement comes on the eve of Beijing's annual 10-day conference, which lays down this country's social and economic goals for the next 5 years. Stay with us for the Riz Khan Show. That's next.
Hello and welcome from New York. When the Berlin Wall came down, he played a concert at the site of that Cold War-era barrier. But what chance is there that Roger Waters, the iconic founder of the rock band Pink Floyd, might perform where the West Bank Wall now stands? The rock star has been a long-time critic of Israel's policies in the occupied territories, and that has brought him controversy and complaints from Israel supporters. Human rights groups have denounced it as a tool for segregation, and the International Court of Justice has ruled that its construction is contrary to international law. Still, Israel insists the barrier is needed to keep out Palestinian suicide bombers and claims that the country is safer as a result. Palestinians see it as a way for Israel to steal their land and humiliate them, and to protect Jewish settlers in the occupied territories. So today we ask, do walls really work? And we get Roger Waters' opinion on why the international community continues to tolerate them. Remember, you can email or text us your questions and comments. Joining me now is Roger Waters, who has visited Palestinian refugee camps affected by Israel's wall. He sees it as an echo of the sentiment expressed in his hugely successful 1979 album, The Wall, and has called for the barrier to be torn down. Roger, thanks for your time. Now, I'll get your experience of walls in the Middle East in just a moment, but first I was interested to read how you came across a quote of yours from 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, where you questioned the value of telecommunications technology, and you were asking whether it would serve to enlighten us and help us better understand each other, or whether it would deceive us and keep us apart. Now, you said at that time the jury is out. Watching what's been going on in the Middle East, seeing these countries, the leadership's autocratic and dictatorships, as people are calling them, falling, how do you regard that now?